Chapter 12, Book 3 of Rookwood. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Paul Curran. Rookwood by William Harrison Ainsworth. Book 3, Chapter 12. Alan Rookwood. The wolf shall find her grave and scrape it up, not to devour the corpse, but to discover the horrid murder. Webster. "Bravo! Capital!" cried Turpin, laughing loud and long as an Olympian deity. "Has this simple wench outwitted you all? Turned the tables upon the whole gang of plotters, eh? Excellent! The next time you wed Sir Luke, let me advise you not to choose a wife in the dark. A man should have all his senses about him on these occasions. Make love when the liquor's in, marry when it's out, and above all, with your eyes open. This beats cockfighting, you must excuse me, but, upon my soul, I can't help it." And his laughter seemed inextinguishable. "Take your men without," whispered Alan Rookwood. "Keep watch as before, and let the discharge of a pistol bespeak the approach of danger as agreed upon. Much yet remains to be done here." "How so?" asked Dick. "It seems to me the job's entirely settled, if not to your satisfaction. I'm always ready to oblige my friend Sir Luke, but curse me if I'd lend my help to any underhand work. Steer clear of foul play, or Dick Turpin holds no hand with you. As to that poor wench, if you mean her any harm, curse me if I will—" "No harm is intended her," replied Alan. "I applaud your magnanimity," added he, sarcastically. "Such sentiments are, it must be owned, in excellent keeping with your conduct." "In keeping or not," replied Turpin, gravely, "cold-blooded murder is altogether out of my line, and I wash my hands of it. A shot or two in self-defence is another matter, and when—" "A truce to this," interrupted Alan. "The girl is safe. Will you mount guard again?" "If that be the case, certainly," replied Dick. "I shall be glad to get back to Bess. I couldn't bring her with me into this black hole. A couple of shots will tell you 'tis Ranulph Rookwood. But mind, no harm to the gipsy girl. To Lady Rookwood, I should say. She's a jewel, take my word for it, which Sir Luke must be mad to throw away." And calling his companions, he departed. Alan Rookwood bent his steps towards the gipsy queen. Dark thoughts gathered quickly o'er his brow. He smiled as he drew nigh to Barbara. A smile it was that wrinkled up his skin even to the hair. Barbara looked at him at first with distrust, but as he developed his secret purposes, that smile became reflected upon her own features. Their conference took place apart. We willingly leave them to return to the altar. Mrs. Mowbray and the priest were still there. Both were occupied in ineffectual endeavours to restore Eleanor to consciousness. She recovered from her swoon, but it was evident her senses still wandered, and vainly did Mrs. Mowbray lavish her tenderest caresses upon her child. Eleanor returned them not. Luke, meanwhile, had given vent to the wildest fury. He shook away Sybil's grasp. He dashed her from him. He regarded her with withering glances. He loaded her with reproaches. She bore his violence with meekest submission. She looked imploringly, but she replied not to his taunts. Again she clung to the hem of his garment when cast aside. Luke appeared unmoved. What passed within we pause not to examine. He grew calmer. His calmness was more terrible to Sybil than his previous wrath had been. "You are my wife," said he. "What then? By fraud, by stratagem, you have obtained that title, and perforce must keep it. But the title only shall you retain. No rights of wife shall ever be yours. It will be in your power to call yourself Lady Rookwood. You will be so in name, in nothing else." "I shall not bear it long," murmured Sybil. Luke laughed scornfully. "So you said before," replied he, "and yet I see not why you are likely to abandon it. The event will show. Thus far you have deceived me, and I place no further faith in your assertions. My hand was yours. You refused it. When I would give it to another, you grasp it clandestinely. Am I to believe you now? The wind will change, the vane veer with it." It will not veer from you, she meekly answered. Why did you step between me and my bride? To save her life, to lay down mine for hers. An idle subterfuge. You know well that you run no risk of being called upon to do so. Your life is in no danger. The sacrifice was unnecessary. I could have dispensed with your assistance. My own arm would have sufficed to protect Eleanor. Your single arm would not have prevailed against numbers. They would have killed you likewise. Tush! Said Luke, fiercely. Not only have you snatched me from my bride, you have robbed me of my fair estates, of all, save of my barren title, and that, even that, you have tarnished. True, sighed Sybil. I knew not that the lands were hers, else had I never done it. False, cried Luke, false as the rest. They will be Ranulph's, she will be Ranulph's. I shall still be an outcast, while Ranulph will riot in my halls, will press her to his bosom. Cling not to me. Hence, or I will spurn you from me. I am undone by you, accursed one. Oh, curse me not. Your words cut deep enough. Would they could kill you, cried Luke, with savage bitterness. You have placed a bar between me and my prospects, which nothing now can remove. Nothing but, ha! And his countenance assumed a deadly hue and a fearful expression. By heaven, you almost rouse the fell spirit which it is said dwells within the breast of my devoted race. I feel as if I could stab thee. No, shrieked Sybil. For mercy's sake, for your own sake, do not stab me. It is not too late. I will repair my wrong. Ever deceiving. You would again delude me. You cannot repair it. One way alone remains, and that I will pursue, responded Sybil, sadly but firmly. Never, cried Luke. You shall not. Ha! exclaimed he, as he found his arms suddenly pinioned behind him. What new treachery is this? By whose orders am I thus fettered? By mine, said Alan Rookwood, stepping forward. By yours? echoed Luke. And wherefore? Release me. Be patient, replied Alan. You will hear all anon. In the meantime, you must be content to remain my prisoner. Quit not your hold, added he, addressing the gipsies who kept charge of Luke. Their lives shall answer for their obedience, said Barbara. Upon a further signal from Alan, Eleanor was torn from her mother's arms, and a bandage passed so suddenly over Mrs. Mowbray's face, that before she could raise a cry of alarm, all possibility of utterance was effectually prevented. The priest alone was left at liberty. Barbara snatched the hand of Eleanor. She dragged her to Sybil. You are Lady Rookwood, whispered she, but she has your domains. I give her to you. She's the only bar between thy husband and his rights, whispered Alan Rookwood, in a tone of horrible irony. It is not too late to repair your wrong. Away, tempter, cried Sybil, horror-stricken. I know you well, yet, continued she, in an altered tone, I will risk all for him. I have done him wrong. One mode of atonement remains, and horrible though it be, I will embrace it. Let me not pause. Give her to me. And she seized upon the unresisting hand of Eleanor. Do you need my aid? asked Barbara. No, replied Sybil. Let none approach us. A clapping of hands will let you know when all is over. And she dragged her passive victim deeper into the vault. Sybil! Sybil! cried Luke, struggling with frantic violence to liberate himself. Hurt her not! I was rash! I was mad! I am calmer now. She hears me not. She will not turn. God of heaven, she will murder her. It will be done while I speak. I am the cause of all. Release me, villains! Would that I had died ere I'd seen this day. At a signal from the sexton, Luke was also blindfolded. He ceased to struggle, but his labouring breast told of the strife within. Miscreants! exclaimed the priest, who had hitherto witnessed the proceedings in horror. Why do not these rocks fall in, and crush you and your iniquities? Save her! Oh, save her! Have ye no pity for the innocent? Such pity have we, replied Alan Rookwood, as you showed my daughter. She was as innocent as Eleanor Mowbray, and yet you did not pity her. Heaven is my witness, exclaimed the priest, that I never injured her. Take not heaven's